Hi everyone, welcome to our next project, a 1966 Porsche 912. Okay, straight on with getting the car on the chassis jig. We spoke a lot about the chassis jig in the video series we did on the Porsche 911 SC that we restored a couple of months ago. So I won't go into too much detail on this, but long story short, this provides all the pickup points for our major suspension mounting points and engine mounting points. It enables us to make sure that the body and chassis is straight and true without spending hours and hours taking measurements. Okay, with the body bolted down to the jig, we can see that all of the brackets on this right hand side line up nicely. As you can see, this right rear shock mount lines up nicely, and we need to make some brackets for the engine mounts. We're just waiting for some bits from the engineers to come through. Moving further forward, the spring plate housing and the gearbox mounts line up well, and then moving towards the front of the car, we can see that the subframe mount lines up well, although I haven't bothered with the rear bolt because it's so rotten. Moving over to the near side of the car, it appears that we've got a big problem. None of the mounting points on this near side line up, and they're all roughly an inch too far back. This suggests that the entire shell is twisted, and we're going to have to push the whole side forwards just to get these mounting points to line up. The first thing I'm going to do is cut out all of the bracing that the previous restorer had welded in. Basically, this is holding the car in the wrong shape, so it's pointless us trying to get this car to fit the chassis jig with these welded in. Now I'm pushing the side of the car forwards to try and get the front subframe mounting bolts to line up. This isn't going to be the final time that we have to push this side forwards, but I'm just looking to get the car roughly in the right shape so we can start cutting it apart and starting the restoration. Okay, so we've managed to push this near side forward and get all of the brackets bolted up. It's still not 100% in the right place, but we're in the right ballpark to begin the restoration now. I haven't bothered too much with the front end because it's so rusty, it's a bit of a guessing game as to whether that's in the right place or not. I've also bolted on these brackets that bolt onto the A-pillars just to see if they're in the right place. They're not quite right, but again they're close enough for now. We can really make sure that these are perfect when it comes to welding the car back together. I'm just going to do a walk around of the shell now so you can see just how rotten it is. Pretty much every single panel has either got a rust hole in it or it's had some bad patchwork done to it in the past. We're going to have to cut all of this out and replace pretty much everything on this shell. It's probably one of the worst ones that we've had to do to date. As you can see, even the top of the dash is rotten. All round the front scuttle's perforated, so that will need repairing. All down this inner quarter panel, and it's got some pigeon poo welding at the bottom. We've even got some aluminium and some rivets at the front. We did initially price to replace these front quarters, but having had a look at the price of them, we've worked out how to repair them more cost effectively. Just for my own peace of mind, I wanted to put the doors on to see what the gaps were like. I wasn't expecting them to be right, but as long as they were in roughly the right ballpark, I was happy. So that's the doors on without any spaces, and to be honest, I am quite happy with that. The tops of the doors line up with the tops of the rear quarters pretty well. I know both the doors and the quarters are pretty crippled, but I can tell that the door's roughly in the right place. This is a good starting point to begin the restoration. So I finally managed to get the parts from the engineers that I had made to make the rear brackets for the engine mounts. I'm now going to measure up the rear end to make sure it's in the right place before I make the brackets to suit. So I've tack welded the brackets together and I'm now trimming them before I fully weld them together. They're made of stainless steel, so we won't have to paint them. That's the two engine brackets welded together and cleaned up. Now they're ready to use, we can start cutting the shell apart. The final thing I need to do now is to fit the brackets and make sure everything still lines up. Okay, so that's our rear engine mount brackets made. As you can see, they line up pretty well. And we've even stamped them with 912 left and 912 right. So we are now fully bolted down to the jig and we can crack on with the metalwork. So I'm going to make a start with the doors. As you can see, there's a fair amount of rust that needs to be repaired and the skin looks like the surface of the moon. First of all, I'm going to remove the outer door skin and then I'll repair the inner framework. We have a repair section for the bottom, but parts of it are going to have to be made. Here you can see the inner repair section. It's not perfect, but it's a good starting point. Here I'm using a set of dividers to mark 20mm down from the bottom return lip of the door. We're going to have to trim this as it comes oversized. With the return lip trimmed, I lay over the bottom repair section onto the door, clamp it down and scribe a line where we need to cut. Now I can carefully cut out the rotten section of the door. Some of the door frame removed, I found some more rust in the hinge strengthening panel. We'll have to make this section. This inner section was pretty simple to make. The outer section will be a little bit trickier. With the inner hinge strengthening panel repaired, we can now focus our attention on repairing the bottom of the framework. With the repair panel now tacked in place, I can fully butt weld this in, grind it back for a seamless finish. Next up is this tricky area around the hinge. I'm going to have to make this in two sections. Okay, so that is the offside door frame done. We're now ready to send this off to have the inside blasted. We'll give it a good coat of epoxy primer and then it's ready to put the skin on. The near side door was very much the same. It looks like the surface of the moon and has just as much rust on the inside of the shell. This will get the same treatment, but I won't bore you with the step-by-step process on this door. Well, thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button. Check back for the next video where we'll be cutting up the body shell and starting the welding repairs. Cheers!